Despite being a character that we don't see much of, Sajin Komamura's Bankai is still one of the most visually striking in all of Bleach due to its massive size and imposing presence. Komamura has activated his Bankai in critical battles during the Soul Society arc, the Fake Karakura Town arc, and the Thousand Year Blood War arc. In chapter 497, when Yhwach's Sternritter steal the Bankai of the Shinigami, Komamura finds himself feeling powerless to avenge Head Captain Yamamoto. Now it's this sense of helplessness which drives him to learn the Humanization Technique, which leads to an evolved form of his Bankai. Now in this video I want to break down and analyze the intricacies of Komamura's original Bankai, Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō. One of my favorite aspects of Bleach is the subtle layers of depth that Kubo writes into his characters. And when we see individuals partake in battle when they activate a new ability or a transformation, these layers of depth are pulled back and we learn so much more about the character. By analyzing the abilities and appearance of Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō, I do believe that we can gain a better understanding of Komamura's character. Be sure to stick around until the very end of this video as I'll be talking about the connection between Komamura's Shikai and his Bankai. Additionally, I'll be highlighting the Buddhist concepts which have influenced the name and release forms of Komamura's Zanpakuto. So without further delay, let's dive into my complete breakdown and analysis of Sajin Komamura's Bankai. We got really tired of the same old boring anime shirts, so we decided to launch Getsuga.com with the aim of creating designs inspired by our favorite anime and manga. We came up with designs that look cool and represent all of our favorite stories. Check out the latest Instinct collection, which features some amazing designs like this Frosted Heavens design inspired by Toshiro Hitsugaya, or this Instinct design inspired by Holo Ichigo, and my personal favorite, which is the Heart design, which was inspired by Ukiura Shifa. Do not miss out, go to Getsuga.com and wear your favorite stories. Komamura is introduced to us as the captain of the 7th Division, and he first reveals his Bankai Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō in chapter 148 during the Soul Society arc when he battles against Kenpachi Zaraki. His Zanpakuto Tenken translates to Heavenly Retribution or Heavenly Punishment. His Bankai Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō translates to Divine Retribution, Black Ropes of Ruination. Another translation of his Bankai name is Vidya Raja of Kala Sutra's Heavenly Punishment. In Eastern Asia and in Hinduism, it's believed that deities that embody wisdom are referred to as Wisdom Kings, which in Sanskrit is Vidya Raja or in Japanese Myō. Understanding these concepts will help us to grasp the deeper meaning behind the giant which manifests when Komamura releases his Bankai, because in some way Komamura is summoning wrathful deities in order to deal out his heavenly punishment. The black ropes which are draped around the giant symbolize bondage, which is in reference to the realm of hell which is intended for sinners. This imagery ties back to Komamura's background, which is revealed in chapter 556, when we see him meeting with the elder of the Wolfman clan. It's revealed that members of the Wolfman clan were originally cursed to dwell within the beast realm due to their sins. They were then returned to the Soul Society in a beast-like state, as they are destined to live out their mortal lives with a sense of shame for sins that were committed by themselves in a past life or by the ancestors of their clan. Tenken Komamura Zanpakuto is a living type Zanpakuto, which explains why its Bankai manifests as a giant. This giant is depicted in armor which resembles that of a samurai, and it mirrors all of Komamura's movements. After Komamura undergoes the Humanization Technique, Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō manifests as a giant stripped of its armor. This iteration of his Bankai is called Dangaijo. Now, with this understanding of the significance behind the name and appearance of Komamura's Bankai, we can now delve deeper into his Shikai. As stated during the battle between Yamamoto and Fake Yhwach in chapter 507, no Zanpakuto possesses a Shikai and Bankai with unrelated abilities. Therefore, it's critical to explore the thematic connection between Komamura's Shikai and Bankai. After examining the abilities of his Shikai, we will then discuss the powers of Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō, and then finally we'll break down the ultimate form of Komamura's Bankai, Dangaijo, as well briefly explain the purpose of the Humanization Technique. A Shikai release represents the partial manifestation of a Shinigami's inner soul. Upon activation, the Zanpakuto either transforms into a unique weapon or it exhibits a special ability. Now, achieving Shikai requires a Shinigami to learn the name of their Zanpakuto. During the invasion of the Soul Society by Ichigo and his friends to rescue Rukia, we witness a pivotal moment in chapter 139. This is when Komamura and Tozen join forces in order to confront Kenpachi Zaraki. Unfazed, Kenpachi provocatively claims that he can handle both captains single-handedly. Irritated by Kenpachi's overconfidence, Komamura decides to unleash his Shikai. In the subsequent panel, a colossal limb materializes and it brings down a massive sword upon Kenpachi. This dramatic display reveals that in its Shikai state, Komamura's Zanpakuto Tengen can manifest the body parts of an invisible giant to attack his opponents. These limbs flawlessly mimic Komamura's movements, but they lack the full strength of the giant's completed form, which we see in its Bankai state. Komamura's Shikai makes another appearance during his confrontation with Aizen in chapters 175 and 176. Despite Komamura exerting a lot of energy, Aizen effortlessly holds the incoming blade with his bare hand in chapter 176. Moments after this, Komamura finds himself unconscious after falling victim to Aizen's Hado number 90, which is one of the highest ranking Kido spells. Komamura's Shikai is utilized once again during the Fake Karakura Town arc when Komamura attempts to attack Tozen. Now at this point, Tozen has undergone holification and he is empowered by Aizen's Hokyoku. Komamura's Shikai summons a segment of the giant as it aims to crush Tozen under its feet. However, this strategy proves futile as it forces Komamura to activate his Bankai in order to challenge his former friend. These encounters highlight that Komamura's Shikai lacks the strength required to contend with really strong opponents like Aizen, Kenpachi, or even Tozen. Tenken's release command is raw, and intriguingly, its appearance remains unchanged from its sealed state upon activation. Bankai represents the completed manifestation of a Shinigami Zanpakuto. This second release of a Zanpakuto represents a huge power boost as it typically increases the capabilities of a Shikai by up to 5 to 10 times. Attaining Bankai requires learning to forcibly subdue one's Zanpakuto's spirit, and once Bankai is obtained, it can take up to 10 years of rigorous training in order to master it. In chapter 516, Mairi reveals a crucial fact about Bankai. Once a Bankai is destroyed, it can never be fully restored to its original form. The only exception to this rule is Komamura's Bankai, Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō, and this is due to the profound bond that it shares with its wielder. This unique connection means that any damage inflicted on the Bankai is mirrored as a physical wound on Komamura's body. But conversely, once Komamura's injuries are healed, his Bankai is also fully restored. Komamura first unleashes his Bankai in the Soul Society arc against Kenpachi Zaraki, and Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō manifests as a towering giant, dwarfing the buildings within the Serete. The giant is fully clad in armor with a sword that differs in appearance from Komamura's Zanpakuto, as it features a string attached to the sword guard. Later, in chapter 179, Komamura attempts to use his Bankai against Aizen but is stopped by Aizen's Hado 90, which forcibly subdues him. During the Fake Karakura Town arc, when Komamura faces off against Baragon's Frashion, he uses his Bankai in response to his opponent releasing a Saro towards him. The design of Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō is breathtaking, and it's always a highlight to see it in action. With a single strike from his Bankai, Komamura defeats Baragon's Frashion, and the giant dissipates into a flutter of reishi, thus signaling the end of their battle. The connection between Komamura's Shikai and Bankai is evident. While Tenken manifests partial aspects of the giant, Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō brings forth the full body of the giant, as it significantly amplifies the strength of Komamura's attacks. In chapter 384, Tozen taunts Komamura about being fooled foolish if he believes that he can be defeated with just a Bankai, as he also notes that any damage that is inflicted on the giant is going to be mirrored onto Komamura himself. This of course is a huge weakness, but it also underscores the idea that Komamura activates his Bankai as he truly believes in its destructive power, and in most instances he probably just wants to one-shot his opponents without expecting them to survive the attack and retaliate. In the end, Tozen severely wounds Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō, which knocks Komamura unconscious. Later in chapter 391, Komamura joins the other Gotei 13 captains as they launch a combined assault against Aizen, but even after he unleashes his Bankai, he is swiftly defeated. The injuries that Komamura sustains are immediately reflected onto his Bankai, thus leaving him unable to continue the battle. Following the first Quincy invasion of the Soul Society, Komamura's Bankai is stolen by Bambietta in chapter 497. Now, unlike the other captains who had their Bankai stolen, Komamura does not resort to conventional means of training in order to strengthen himself, as he instead turns to the elder of his clan for guidance, as he wants to learn a secret technique which hopefully will be a sufficient replacement to his Bankai. In chapters 538 and 539, we see the elder of Komamura's clan scolding him for trying to reclaim his heritage after having previously hidden his true identity. Despite Komamura's attempts to convince his grandfather that the world might accept the Wolfman clan, he is ultimately forced to engage in a battle with the elder of his clan in order to gain the hidden knowledge of the Humanization Technique. In chapter 556, Komamura reappears onto the battlefield, and through a flashback we learn that the secret technique is called the Humanization Technique. This ability temporarily frees members of the Wolfman clan from their current forms, thus allowing them to take on a human appearance. In order to access this human form, Komamura needed to tear out his own heart and offer it to the elder of his clan. Komamura explains that his motivation for doing this stems from a deep sense of duty and respect that he has for Head Captain Yamamoto, as everything that he is doing here is in order to avenge the death of the former Head Captain. When Komamura could no longer bear living in the shadows after he had abandoned his clan, it was Head Captain Yamamoto who had welcomed him into the Gotei 13. This is why Komamura is so determined to avenge the death of Yamamoto. In subsequent panels, we see that Komamura has achieved a new form of his Bankai, which is called Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō Dangai Jo. In this form, the armor that once covered the giant has been removed, as it reveals pure Reiatsu and raw strength. Komamura explains that his Bankai was previously a suit of armor brought to life, but in its Dangai Jo form, the armor is shed and it exposes the true essence of his power. In this battle against Bambietta's explosions, Komamura remains unafraid of being blown apart because he has effectively sacrificed his life here, so he is pretty much immortal. Thanks to the undying body that is being granted by the Humanization Technique, Komamura is invulnerable to any harm from Bambietta's attacks. The design of Dangai Jo is very reminiscent of this concept of a demon come to life. This aligns perfectly with the theme of revenge, which Kubo has woven into Komamura's final battle. His conversation with his grandfather is skillfully woven in via flashbacks during his battle against Bambietta. The moment that the clan elder thanks Komamura for giving up his heart is juxtaposed against Komamura defeating Bambietta, as it heightens the sense of grief that we feel as we realize that despite Komamura having defeated one of the Sternritter, he was ultimately unsuccessful in his goal of avenging Head Captain Yamamoto, as he was unable to take out Yhwach, and for this Komamura had paid a devastatingly high price, as he completely transforms into a wolf now. The themes and philosophy of Komamura's character is encapsulated in his words that he speaks to Tozen in chapter 387. After Tozen is defeated by Hisagi, he reflects that the three of them were destined to face each other in battle someday. In one of the most emotional moments in all of Bleach, Komamura pleads with Tozen to let go of his grudge, as he urges him not to let his thirst for revenge change who he is at his core. Tragically, Komamura himself fails to heed his own advice, as Komamura had also succumbed to this thirst for revenge after Yhwach had taken Yamamoto's life. Via Komamura's character, Kubo masterfully explores the theme of vengeance and its destructive consequences. Komamura ultimately becomes the embodiment of everything that he had once implored Tozen to avoid. Komamura's fate is an ironic tragedy which highlights the futility of revenge. This symbolism of Komamura transforming into a wolf illustrates how revenge can strip away a person's humanity. His conversation with his elder mirrors Ichigo's encounter with Tensa Zangetsu during the Fate Karakura Town arc, where Ichigo had to willingly allow himself to be stabbed by Zangetsu. However, while Tensa Zangetsu revealed that his true desire was to protect Ichigo, Komamura openly admits that his motivation was to avenge Yamamoto. This contrast further emphasizes the destructive path that Komamura had chosen, as he had decided to walk on this path of revenge due to his unwavering sense of duty and loyalty to Yamamoto. Komamura's conviction is reflected within his Zanbakuto, which translates to heavenly punishment, and it's rooted in this concept of punishment that is received within hell. And all of this is linked to the burden of sin that the Wolfman clan carry. There is definitely a lot here for Kubo to expand upon when it comes to the history of Komamura's clan. But from everything that we do know, it does paint us a picture of Komamura's struggle and the tragic weight of the decisions that he had made. Following the conclusion of the 1000-Year Blood War arc, Komamura spent the rest of his days as a wolf, and we learn more about this within the We Do Not Always Love You light novel. I do have a separate video on the channel where I break down and analyze everything that there is to know about the Humanization Technique, so definitely do go and check that video out. I've had a ton of fun diving into Komuras Bankai, looking at all of the sources of inspiration that Kubo had drawn from, which include Buddhist mythology as well as Hinduism, when he was naming, designing and coming up with a concept for Komuras Bankai. We've now reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What do you guys think about Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō? Despite it not being one of the most powerful Bankai in the series, it is still riddled with so much thematic depth and symbolism that it's just one of those Bankai that you cannot ignore. If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention about Kokujō Tengen Myō'ō, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thanks for sticking around until the end of this one, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach Explained video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.